So we're getting started. We're back. This is Women Winning at Work with Barker Herman. And today I have a very special guest, Jessica Callahan. Jessica is a program manager. And Jessica, I'm going to invite you to describe what you do because you'll do more justice to it than I will. And of course at Microsoft. So go ahead, Jessica.
Thank you for the introduction. It's really nice to be here with you and to be able to discuss some great topics today. So right now I'm a program manager too. I work in the Azure Global Mission Platform space. And what I do there is, it's a little bit of everything. You're kind of program managing, you're understanding the text, you're kind of a little bit of a tech PM, but you're really understanding for the customer how to make their air gap cloud secure and make sure that the people that are working on the air gap cloud are secure and that we run on trust, like Microsoft always talks about. So that's where I work. I work under Eric Brown as my VP. Tom Keene is the president. And I've been here since January 2020. So it's just really exciting time.
You're not a long-term veteran at Microsoft, but for the audience, can you tell me what air gap is? Because I mean, you and I know it, and we kind of fall into this lingo.
Yeah. So really, an air gapped cloud is a network and servers and everything that are clustered together with a group of services and products and software to create an environment for a sole customer or client where their data is safe and secure. They can call to it and access it, store it where they need to. It's scalable, so depending on how much data needs you may need, you can go up and down, which is very helpful for the consumer as far as understanding prices and where they want to go as they build their business. But it really is a holistic approach to the internet and storage and enterprise businesses, really having their data secure, which is paramount nowadays with everything going on in the world and the way cyber moves so quickly.
Yeah, thank you for that. So wonderful. And so I know you because of a infamous email chain that went around, and I was so impressed by your background. So I do know a little bit about it, but I'm going to let you speak on it. I'm not going to speak on it, but so tell me about your origin story. So this is like my favorite part. So tell me how you ended up here.
All right. So if I start talking too much, round me back on track, okay, Barka? But
not at all. No such thing.
My origin story started probably about, when the age of 12, I was living with my grandparents in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up here. I graduated high school. I always knew I wanted to be of service. I grew up, kind of really looking at my grandfather who served in the Navy as a hero. Unfortunately, I joined the military as a U.S. Army soldier, so he wasn't, super happy about that, but he loved that I was serving. So from all of my sisters and brothers and cousins, I was the only one that went to serve, at that time as we grew up. I spent over 20 years in the military. I had really interesting positions. Let's see, the origin of the military, though, is really interesting. I graduated high school. Okay. And then I had my oldest son that year after. So I was a young single parent. I had to put the joining the military on hold for a year to raise my my 1-year-old son with my I was married to my high school sweetheart at that time. So I went off, when he was a year old, and I went to basic training. I joined the military. I used the time away from him, which was agonizing, as a way to, if I just get through this this 2-mile run faster, Christopher will be at the finish line waiting for me. Like mental games to build yourself up to accomplish things, when you're going through, times where you need to build resiliency. So 19 in the Army with a 1-year-old, my husband at that time, my son's dad, did not want to move away and live that life. So we ended up separating and divorcing. So I ended up in Hawaii all by myself at my first duty station with my 1-year-old in 1998. So yeah, it was a lot of I look back on that time and I wonder, how did I get from, there to here in my life? And it's been so amazing. I've had, such amazing experiences growing up in the military and learning who I was, finding other women and promoting them. And there's not a lot of us in the military. I ended up in the special operations community for most of my career, which has an even smaller amount of women in it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yes. I ended up getting remarried to my best friend. Have another son that's gonna be 21 this December. They're both welding. Um, so yeah, so I had to juggle things, in my career with trying to figure out, how, like we were talking about earlier, how to get to be the best I can be at work in a very competitive and no fail, job, deployments where I've had to fly my children out to grandparents, enroll them in school,
Yeah.
for 6 months to fly back and re-enroll them back in school. So I look back on that. I'm like, how did I do that? Well, we didn't have a choice. You had to do it, as women and mothers. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you bring up some interesting things, and you definitely have. And I do want to hear how you got from military to Microsoft in a minute, but I do want to touch on something that you talked about. Now, you got pregnant after high school, you had your child, and
Mhm.
then you had to walk away from the child to do your basic training and all this stuff. And in a lot of books, that would be considered failures, but you're not looking at it as failures. So talk to me a little bit about that. What comes to
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah, so it wasn't my plan to get pregnant, as a lot of us young ladies find that happening. Um, And I didn't want to ever have children growing up. So I was like, oh, I have this
Good
surprise,
people.
yeah, the surprise happening. And what can I do to make my dreams come true? But also those aren't the priority anymore, really. It's making a life for my son. So I got to kind of do two in one. I got to join the military and serve, which I wanted to do, but I also got to make a really great life and a really great start in life for him by doing that at the same time. It
Yeah.
really helped me get my feet under me. It was incredibly difficult. Basic training is 2 months, and then my particular job in the Intel community was another 8 months of training. So I
Mm.
wasn't allowed to see him that entire time. I could call though, so that did help bridge those gaps. We didn't have FaceTime or those things back then. I'm dating myself, but it did help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, that's difficult. And that's I remember this one time when my kids were little and I was in the internet like very early on during the internet phase. My kids were little and one day, and they grew up with internet in the house, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know a world without internet. And I
Yeah.
remember one time they asked me, "What kind of games did you play when you were growing up?" And I told them, "Oh, we didn't have internet." And they just looked so sad for me. And they kind of came over and gave me a hug. And I was like, "You don't understand. Nobody had it. It's not like,
Yeah.
I wasn't a victim, but yeah." So I totally relate. So that's
It's
that's
so
wonderful.
funny finding ourselves in that age gap where we remember what it was like to like go out and play hide and seek and stuff and not have the internet. And then, but we also are, in tech and we can understand it and use it. So it's
Yeah.
such an interesting compare and contrast from those
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, I mean, I think I live in a great time because we saw so much change.
Yes.
But yeah, no, but I'd love to hear more. So, you did 22 years in the US Army, which is
Mhm.
amazing, and intelligence community and especially special ops community. That's very impressive. And I'd love to hear stories about it, but let's talk about how you ended up at Microsoft and what was that journey?
Yeah. So my journey to Microsoft, it started pretty close to the end of my military career. I want to say about 3 years out. I really tried to take some time, and my kids were a little bit older, a little more self-sufficient. So I was like, I need to finish my bachelor's degree. So my path really was spurred through my bachelor's degree at University of Arizona. Got a bachelor's of applied science in organizational leadership, but a lot of the cases that we studied about great business models and great cultures and building of teams centered around current Microsoft stories, like current in the last 10 years, and how far, Microsoft has come, what they do for the world and the communities that they, live in. And I grew up in Port Orchard, Washington, right across the, Puget Sound from Seattle. area. And I knew the whole time I was in the military that I wanted to get back to the West Coast, where I grew up, and go camping, and just I loved it here. So my road to Microsoft started back then with me really finding out and learning a lot about Microsoft and what they do. And I really am passionate about culture. So I really wanted to come somewhere where I could, see it and have an impact on it and be a part of it. And so about a year out, I applied almost every day to every Microsoft job I could find that fit my skills and experiences. Just super excited to try and get my foot in the door. And then it finally happened for me in December of 2019, a year
Yeah,
later.
that's
Yep.
that's fantastic. I mean, that's such an inspirational story. And so this is what I tell people always is that, my favorite story is you can't give up after the first failure. You have to try.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, I like to paint as a hobby, and I remember my husband taking me to talk to a artist that I admired, and I was embarrassed, and I didn't know what to say to him because I don't paint, that's not what I do. It's just a hobby, and I hadn't painted in like a decade, and I told him I don't even know where to start, and he said, you know what? Do 100 paintings, and then by the end of it, you'll know where to
Yeah.
start.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's like that. It's apply for 100 jobs, and then you'll know what you're good at. You'll
Yeah.
know how to interview,
Yeah,
all
it's
of
so
that.
true. Like even with, what you consider a setback or a rejection email or a canned rejection email from a company, you still learn so much in the process, even while you're networking, while you're going through your resume and, maybe making it fit a little bit better and more aesthetically pleasing. You still grow so much during the interview process and the rejection process, which I don't really
Yeah.
feel rejection, but yeah, you learn a lot. And I think it's a great experience to go through, but you have to not give up and believe in yourself for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fantastic. So two grown kids, what was that like? Balancing work and raising children. And I know you talked about you're 10 months away from the little one,
Yeah.
but it's almost like they don't remember that. So that's not where they guilt you later on. It's
Yeah,
later,
you're so right. They don't remember that at all. I remember coming home from Afghanistan in 2002, and my youngest was, a year maybe, and he didn't want to come to me when I stepped off the plane. I
Yeah,
was a stranger to him. I had been gone for 6 months, and they're developing a lot during that time. And it crushed me, but he doesn't remember it. After, the first 10 minutes, he wouldn't leave my side, but those first 10 minutes crushed me. So yeah, it is so true though. It is hard. It's difficult. I think the balance is never really balanced. It's sometimes you're trying to give a lot to your family and your kids, and sometimes you're having to give a little more to work. And I think both sides kind of suffer sometimes, but it's like picking your battles, and trying to do what you can. There's moments, that I've missed out on that, I mean, to this day, I like regret choosing, maybe that work project, and having less time for them. But there's also some really great moments that we've got to make up with, and this job that I was having in the military and having to go be gone from them really helped give them some really great experience on how to like take care of yourself when mom's away, and how to be resilient in those moments. And we've tried to make up for it with, other fun trips and stuff. And I really look back and thank them for being so understanding of my career, because there's times they didn't get to do baseball because I couldn't
yeah,
leave work to take them to practice or games, but and also I got really lucky finding my best friend and marrying him.
yeah,
Such a
yeah.
helpful balance there too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll share something with you when you talk about balance. I hate the word balance because
Yeah.
balance implies like there's like this one tiny itty bitty spot where
Yeah.
everything's balanced. Everything else is out of. So I like harmony. I like harmony in work and life because
Yeah.
there's no balance in my life.
Yeah, I agree. I
Balance
think
is
that's
fleeting, right?
yeah.
I do a lot of one or a lot of another, and the best I can do is whatever I'm doing, focus on that.
Yes.
When I'm with my family, I'm 100% with my family. When I'm at work, I'm 100% with my work. When I'm with my hobbies or whatever else I'm doing, 100% there. And that's the only thing that works for me. don't like balance at all. So I appreciate you sharing that, you know.
Yeah, thank you. I as well don't like the word balance, so I love the word harmony. I'm gonna steal it from you.
You're welcome to. I hope everybody does.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
better.
because harmony, here's the other thing is that, you look at a symphony and every orchestra plays their own bit, and some play a lot, some play a little, some gets highlighted, some at some points, and yet it all works,
Yeah,
right? That's to me,
love
and
it.
life is an orchestra, not like not a
A guitar
coordination.
solo.
Everybody doing the same thing at the same time. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. So anyway, tell me what has been your experience working for a quote unquote tech company coming from military?
Oh gosh, yeah. It has been such an experience. Some moments I would, be like, oh my gosh, I'm at Microsoft where I wanted to be. And then, especially the first 3 to 6 months, I'd be sitting in meetings and be like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Like imposter syndrome hit big time, right? I came
Yeah.
from a very like technical background, data analysis and tracking, metadata on devices, but it didn't really translate over into corporate. So especially tech. So it's been really interesting to take skills that I might have had in the military and see how they translate.
Mm,
People at Microsoft are my team and the organization I've been with, and Microsoft writ large have been really great about embracing people coming from the military or the DoD and helping us transition. I've learned so much, and I continue to learn that it was difficult, but as long as you know that it's going to be a change and not be afraid of it, I think it's okay. You can't fear change.
yeah. Well, tech is a bad space to be if you don't like change,
Yes, that's so true.
or
Yeah,
military for that matter.
yes, yeah, it's so true.
What quick question though, you brought up imposter syndrome, and this is something that, so you're touching on some amazing points, especially for working women. The mom guilt, we talked about that a little bit. Um, but you brought up imposter syndrome, and this is something that I hear again and again when I talk about women in tech or women that are career women, right? Um, what helped you get over it?
Hmm. I think the background I had in the military, you know, I can recognize that an institution I loved and that served me so well and helped me grow up into a human being that I kind of like right now and is continuing to evolve. But I can also recognize, the failings of an institution like that. There was not a lot of support for females. There was a glass ceiling that was hard to break. With all the advances that we've made with equality in the military and the government, we're still behind. With corporate and tech. So it was interesting coming to tech as a female, coming from somewhere where you really had to prove yourself, like 20 times more than maybe a
Mm,
male counterpart would have to, right? And you really had to work hard and you really had to make sure your reputation was on the up and up, so you just had to be careful about what you were doing, who you were talking to, and you had to always be hypersensitive of that. Um, and that was interesting. So coming to Microsoft for me has been eye-opening because I found so many, especially on that email string that we've talked about, the infamous one,
yes,
so many great women here in tech that have
yes.
such great diverse backgrounds. I'm so thankful for them to look around and see them because I was like one female many times, in austere environments in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. And that got hard after a while, looking
Yeah.
around and not having somebody to have stories and interests with and understanding of what, you can go through. But being at Microsoft has really, it's been like a breath of fresh air in that regard because I
Yeah.
can look around and see more. I think we have a long way to go, but I think Microsoft is really trying to get there.
Yes, yes, and and this is what I say to some of my younger colleagues, especially younger male colleagues who expect equality, almost like, and listen, it's great. Expectation of equality is great. I love it.
Mhm,
Our children should expect equality.
mhm,
So nothing against that. But the point is, I was in this industry 30 plus years ago.
mhm,
And when I was a young 21-year-old working at IBM, naive, like didn't know anything.
Yep.
I would run to the bathroom and have a nice cry some days,
Yeah.
just because it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the point is, and I'm not saying people were mean or bad or whatever, but it was not a friendly environment
Right.
for somebody. Like I couldn't talk to anybody, and I've been in your situation. You've probably 100 times worse than mine in military, but I've been the first this, the
Yes.
first female that, so many times. And from my perspective, we are so much further. And one of the reasons that I even started speaking was because of that, because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I find that, like I tease my husband about it all the time. I'm married to an American. He happens to be white, and I was like, he's an old white guy who he can't change the face of, you know, the
Yeah.
future. I can, because,
Yeah.
and so whereas before I would always try to be less feminine, one of the guys.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now I have a different perspective. So I'd love to hear your views on that. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree, that I had those similar things where I had to fit in, be one of the guys, be as tough as them, talk like them, prove myself, and just kind of haha at the jokes and stuff that weren't so haha.
Yeah,
And even make fun of myself, to try and feel like I fit in. It's been I live my life because I had a rough start as a child and as a teenager. I was lucky that my grandparents took me in, but I live my life thinking, be the woman or the person you needed when you were blank age, right? A 20-year-old starting out in the world, a young woman that's, finds herself pregnant and wasn't expecting it, or, someone
right.
who's thinking about, getting out of the army, but they don't know what they want to do next. Like, I really want to be that person that I needed, or like you needed, somebody that was you could talk to and just have a mentor. And so I love that you're doing this, because I needed that so much when I was younger. I try to do that for, my friends, my kids' friends, if they don't have a great home environment, be the adult that they might need and guidance. So it's been really great to be able to do this
Yeah.
and to talk about my experiences, because we all have such different experiences, right?
Yes.
So it's nice to see, like, and this might be off topic. I have an identical twin sister, and we are completely different. Grew up completely different. I call her the evil one.
How amazing, though.
Yeah, yeah, but completely different lives, and it's sad because we didn't grow up together from the time we were little. We've kind of found each other here and then over the decades. But she let herself become a product of environment and ended up making some really bad choices. Jail, lots of drugs, kids in foster care now, because she just can't get herself set straight. And so it's really interesting seeing the nature versus nurture and what you can become. And you don't have to become a product of your environment. You can
Yeah.
rise above it. It's all about choices. It's difficult for a lot of people to overcome that, but it's not impossible, especially if you have people kind of above you or have paved the way a little bit to try and help you pull you up. So,
Yeah, and you're right. I think that there's a camp that'll tell you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and then a camp that says, well, the system should be ideal. And I think that we live in a world somewhere between those two, right?
yes. Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think that we need both.
Yes.
And so I was bowled over when I first onboarded, and they handed me, the mindfulness and growth mindset and the whole thing. I'm a big fan.
Me too.
So and I'd read the book before. So you touch on it. So I love that. So what would you say to a young person who is, in this 18 and, kind
Yeah.
of not in a good situation? What would you say to them?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not, it's so hard to see beyond that when you're a young person. It's hard to see beyond the immediate future. And I struggled with that and thought I knew everything as a young person. I think we all do that. Like, oh, I know how to do this. But the reality is it's hard, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
I think being able to understand where you can go for resources, thinking of options that can help you, baby step to your dreams. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Because then, you tend to give up when it looks like a mountain way too big to climb. You got to make small hurdle, small little approachable like wins. And then, be open. Be
Yeah.
open, say yes. You never know what saying yes to an opportunity could get you, what you could learn about yourself and learn, growing up that you might really like. I do really push, the young people around the neighborhood, even especially girls. I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you think about STEM? Like, what do you think about coding? What do you think about this? I'm like, I'm not super techie coding, but I love it and I'm learning it on my own, and telling the opportunities out there and look at the growth, look at like, gosh, what is it out there? All the different HoloLens and all the different really cool things that are coming into fruition and connecting us as a world in tech and how cool it is. So,
Yeah.
fortunately, a lot of them grow up with tech nowadays, so it's not a hard sell, but really getting the
Yeah.
girls in STEM is the where I'm trying to go with them.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So speaking of, I'm going to ask you, you do some charitable work, you mentor. So talk to me about your what kind of things you do in your free
Yeah.
time.
So my free time, which is never free, sure, as you know, I do a lot of parrot rescue and dog rescue. So
Nice.
I've turned into a rescue fail, or what they call a foster fail, where I have 4 parrots, of different sizes, and 6 pugs that are rescues, and 2 labs that are rescues. And if I could take on more, I would. But I do that. I give through Microsoft Gives to a specific parrot rescue called the Parrot Rescue of Costa Rica. They're U.S. based, but they in the wild, parrots are captured. People don't understand how to take care of them.
Yeah.
They end up in homes or, not in great conditions. And so Costa Rica is a great place where there's a parrot rescue organization there that's doing a lot for wild parrots. And there's a lot around the United States that people could give to if
Right.
they're interested in that. So
Yeah.
that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, and mentoring other military veterans as they transition and look at, different roles and tech and opportunities through the Microsoft Systems and Software Academy.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So, yeah, definitely share the links for any of these things, and I'll share that in show notes.
Sure.
Um, what would what is the one like, I've heard somebody else ask, or if you had a billboard, what would you put on it? But I'm not going to steal their thunder. But what one message would you give to a person who's listening to this podcast and is inspired by you? What one message would you like to tell them? What would you like to share?
Um, it's kind of a two-parter. It's a be kind always, right?
Mm.
Be kind to yourself, to your
Yeah,
coworkers, to your family, to the stranger that cut you off on the freeway. Because really, it's not worth getting angry. What does that do? It's like drinking poison. So be
yeah,
kind, be
yeah.
kind always, but never give up. Never ever give up. You got to believe in yourself as much as you have to be kind to yourself and others. So that would be my message. Be kind to yourself and others in the world, and never give up. And just keep trying, keep trying to do something and grow, and you're never going to stop learning. It's amazing to keep learning. I'm 43 and I'm still learning.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then what would you do? Like what's your end goal? What would you like the next 10, 20 years to be like?
I really would love to see myself learning and growing within the Microsoft organization even more.
Mhm.
I'm 43 and my husband and I talk about like in 10 years, we want to be, our little nest egg is squirreled away with our retirement, and we can go travel. Like we can't travel now with our zoo of rescue animals. So we have to wait until we can. So we're thinking 10, 15 years, work at Microsoft. He's just recently retired from the military, and he takes care of the house while I'm trying to work. So it's really helpful. But 10 years, I see myself, with a great group of strong friends and female coworkers, and really making some great changes as we continue to really drive Microsoft and tech and life forward for everybody. But yeah, I see myself in 10 years retiring and just traipsing around and visiting and traveling and doing fun things that I've not gotten to do for most of my life.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with our audiences today?
No, I don't think so. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I really believe in networking. I really invite people if they want to like learn more or talk more or see more about me to connect with me, see if I can help them, resume reviews or any kind of transitioning or questions about tech in general. I'd love to be a help to anybody that would require it.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'll definitely include your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. And yeah,
Mhm.
hopefully people will take you up. And yeah, networking is where it's at.
It
So,
is. We can
all right.
accomplish. I'm
Well, thank
convinced
you
we can.
so.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Finish, finish.
I was going to say I'm convinced we can solve so many of the world's problems just by relationship building, you
I
know?
I agree with you there. I mean, I really do. And even when I think back to my lowest points, if I had known the right person at that time to help me or lift me up, and it's not even like sometimes it's money, sometimes it's opportunity,
Mhm.
but more than that, it's just knowing the right person.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. So thank you, Jessica, so much. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me. It's a really treat to be here today. I was super excited for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.